A very good day to Miss Aina, our lecturer, and also to everyone who's watching this. So, my name is Abraham Harry, together with my group, Isabelle Harry, and also Rakesh Kumar. Today, we are going to present about our Law of the Sea assignment, which analyze a legal scenario involving a foreign uh, flag oil tanker navigating through international strait and later operating within a coastal state's exclusive economic zone. So within our discussion, it applies the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea, or also known as UNCLOS, in order to evaluate the rights and obligation of the coastal states and the vessel. So this analysis is structured into three parts, which is the strait passage, the pollution enforcement, and lastly the exclusive economic zones activities. So without further ado, let's proceed with the next slide, which is the table content. All right, within our content, we have a total around 12 pages. First started with the case study. Second, uh, question A, strat passage. The summary of question A, question B, pollution enforcement. Summary of question B, and continue until conclusion. And we also provide the relevant case law in order to back up our case as well. So let's proceed with the next slide, which is the case background. So this case, it involves a foreign flag oil tanker transiting through a narrow straight line that lies within the territorial seas of two coastal states, which is the uh, state A and also state B. So the strait actually connects one part of the high seas to another and is regularly used for the international navigation. And during transit, the oil tanker caused an oil spillage which affects pollution due to an operational failure. After leaving the transit, the vessel entered the exclusive economic zone of Zone A and conducted energy production activities without obtaining any coastal states consent. So these facts raises legal questions regarding the passage rights, the pollution enforcement, and lastly the exclusive economic zone jurisdiction under UNCLOS. So as you can see on the right part of the slide, based on these facts, there are three legal questions arise. First, under question A, part A, we must explain the legal regime governing the tanker's passage through the strait and identify the limits of coastal state sovereignty. The second one is under Part B, we assess whether the state is legally entitled to exercise enforcement jurisdiction for the pollution incident that occurred during the transit passage. The last one, under Part C, we analyze whether the tanker's energy production activities in State A exclusive economic zones are lawful and whether State A may regulate or enforce laws against the tanker. So, without further ado, for the next slide, I will pass it to my next presenter, and that is all from me. Thank you.
Hello, hi, I'm Rakesh Kumar Selvaraj, and today I'll be presenting the Part A trade passage. For question A, the legal issue is whether the tanker's passage is governed by the transit passage and how far State A and State B can exercise sovereignty over the straits. According to the Article 37 of UNCLOS, Part 3 applies to the straits used for international navigation that connects two parts of the high seas or EEZ. So Article 38, which explains that the transit passage must be continuous and expeditious navigations. So as you see, the Article 38 Clause 2 also states that transit passage cannot be suspended or coastal states, although Article 34 says the coastal states have a sovereignty over the straits. This sovereignty is limited by the unclosed Part 3. So therefore, coastal states must be respect the right of transit passage. Moving on to the next slide. And now application of law and conclusion. So if you see in this case, the strait connects to two parts of the high seas. So Article 37 of UNCLOS clearly applies the tanker travel continuously through the straits, which fulfills the requirement of transit passage under the Article 38. Because of this, Strait A and Strait B are not allowed to stop, delay or obstruct the tanker during its passage as stated in Article 38 and Article 34. Although both states have sovereignty over the straits, their powers are limited under Article 34. Therefore, the tanker was lawfully exercising its right in transit passage. This shows the transit passage protect international navigation while still recognizing limited coastal state sovereignty. Moving on to the next slide. And summary of the question A. To summarize the question A, the strait is an international strait used for navigation. So transit passage applies. So the tanker complied with the continuous transit. So state A and state B cannot interfere with the passage. So their sovereignty exists, but it is limited to safety and also pollution regulation. Therefore, transit passage applies and coastal states' sovereignty is restricted by UNCLOS. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isabelle, Ramy, Imock, and I will be covering for part B of this question, which deals with the pollution enforcement during transit passage. The legal issue here is whether State A can lawfully stop and inspect the foreign flagged oil tanker empty ocean crest. This is for the tanker's actions of discharging oily substances while the tanker is exercising the right for transit passage through the international strait shared by State A and State B. According to Article 39, Clause 2, Clause A, ships must comply with the generally accepted international regulations for the prevention of pollution. This means that even during transit passage, even exercising their right, vessels such as the empty ocean crest cannot freely cause pollution, which they did. At the same time, Article 42, Clause 1, Clause B allows coastal states to adopt laws relating to pollution prevention in international straits. However, this power is not unlimited. It is not a sovereign. It's not full sovereignty. It's just a sovereign right. So, for Article 42, Clause 2, it clearly states that such laws must not hamper, impair, or discriminate against foreign ships using transit passage. The most important provision for enforcement in this case is the Article 233 in Part 12 of Protection of Marine Environment. This article provides that coastal states may take enforcement measures against foreign ships in straits only when there is willful and serious pollution causing environmental damage to the sea. This shows that UNCLOS adopts a high threshold for wrongdoing before enforcement is taken place. So for the application of law, applying the law to the facts, the empty ocean crest discharged oil due to an operational failure, which breaches international pollution standards under Article 39. However, this does not automatically allow State A to stop and inspect the tanker. State A must first assess whether the pollution is serious, whether it causes or threatens major environmental damage, and whether enforcement measures are necessary and proportionate to the wrongdoing. If State A were to arbitrarily stop empty ocean crests or cause unnecessary delay for their journey, this would violate the right of passage under Article 38, right of passage through straits, and Article 44, which state that coastal state may regulate passage for safety and environmental protection, but transit passage cannot be blocked. Therefore, enforcement is justified only when exceptional circumstances and not as a routine response to any wrongdoings. So, in conclusion, State A may enforce pollution laws during transit passage only when the pollution is willful, serious, and causes major environmental damage, and any enforcement action must not impede the foreign ships' right for transit passage through the straits. Okay, this slide summarizes question part B. The main issue here is whether State A can stop and inspect the empty ocean crest for pollution while it is exercising transit passage. Under UNCLOS, ships must comply with pollution control issues, but at the same time, transit passage must not be hampered. Although coastal states like State A may adopt pollution laws, enforcement is allowed only for willful and serious pollution, as stated under Article 233. In applying the law, the oil discharge presents a serious pollution risk, but State A may enforce only if the measures are necessary and proportionate to the wrongdoing. Stopping the tanker is justified only to prevent further environmental damage, and no unnecessary delay for the foreign flagship is allowed. So the main takeaway here is that enforcement in the strait is permitted only for serious pollution causing major environmental damage. Next, my groupmate will present for part C.
Okay, my name is Abraham Harry, and I will continue to present Part C, which is activities within the exclusive economic zone. So the third legal issues concern the tanker productions activities within the state's exclusive economic zone. So the question raises is whether such activities are lawful and whether state A may regulate and enforce a law against the tanker. So for the definition of law, we have stated around four articles from UNCLOS. The first one being the Article 57 defines the exclusive economic zones are extending up to 200 nautical miles from the coastal state's baseline. Within this zone, Article 56, Clause 1, Clause A, grants the coastal states exclusive sovereign rights for exploring, exploiting, conserving, and managing natural resources, including the production of energy from water current and winds. Okay, for the next one, while Article 58 Clause 1 preserve the freedom of navigation for other states, it explicitly excludes the rights to exploit resources. So the coastal state may retain enforcement authority under Article 73 Clause 1, which allows boarding, inspection, enforcement of laws related to exclusive economic zones resource management. Okay, let's proceed to the next slide, which is the application of law. In application of law, the tanker or empty ocean crest conducted energy production activities from sea currents without obtaining any consent from state A. So this activity clearly exceeds the freedom allowed under Article 58 Clause 1 and violates the exclusive rights of State A under Article 56 Clause 1 Clause A. Consequently, State A is legally entitled to enforce its EEZ law, including ordering the cessation of illegal activities boarding the vessel or taking judicial measures under Article 73, Clause 1. So, in conclusion, therefore, State A may regulate and enforce its law against the tanker, or also known as the empty ocean crest. Okay, in the next slide is the summary for question C. We have stated the legal issues, the definition of law, application of law, and also the conclusion. All right. Okay, for the next slide, I will pass it on to the next presenter. Thank you.
Alright, as a conclusion, as shown in our slides, strait passage is governed by the transit passage regime under the UNCLOS. which allows ships to pass continuously and without interruptions. While limiting the coastal state sovereignty, pollution enforcement in international trade is only permitted under strict conditions where the pollution is serious and causes major environmental harm. In the EEZ, energy production activities without the coastal states concerned are unlawful, maybe because such activities falls under the exclusive rights of the coastal state. Together, these points clearly shows that UNCLOS balances the freedom of navigation with coastal state rights and environmental protections. So, in addition to these legal rules, this case also highlights the importance of and the responsibility ships must cooperate carefully to protect the marine environment, while coastal states must exercise their powers fairly and according to the international law. Therefore, UNCLOS not only provides legal clarity but also promotes sustainable and peaceful use of the world's oceans. Thank you.
Finally, we have the relevant case law in this question, the Corfu Channel case, UK versus Albania in 1949. So for the Corfu Channel case, decided by the ICJ, International Court of Justice, in the year 1949, is relevant in understanding the limits of coastal state powers in international straits. In this case, the court held that although a strait may lie within a state's territorial sea, coastal state sovereignty is not absolute. States must allow passage through straits used for international navigation and must not obstruct such passage. The court also established a general principle. States have a duty not to knowingly allow activities within their territory that may cause harm to other states, which is what Albania's mines did to the UK's Royal Navy ships. So in the context of empty ocean crest, the Corfu Channel case supports two main important points. Firstly, for Part A, the question Part A, it reinforced that State A cannot arbitrarily interfere with a vessel exercising their right of transit passage. So for Part B, secondly, it supports the idea that enforcement action must be justified and proportionate to the wrongdoing, especially when balancing the case for their navigation rights with environmental protection. For the Corfu Channel case, it's not applicable to EEZ energy activities in Part C, which is governed closely and exclusively by UNCLOS provisions. Lastly, here is our list of reference for this question. Thank you for your attention.